In that space, the very first thing that people experience is more compassion for themselves and more compassion for others. Because what I always tell people is like, once you see through this lens, you don't unsee it. You can't unsee it.
It's like the next big thing. Come catch the wave, yeah, watch what's happening. A force of nature. Hit 'em like lightning. Be the creator of the next big thing. We're the movers and shakers. We are the dreamers, the makers. We stand on top of equators. We are the limitless. Got the future, no papers. We are the innovators. We have the focus like lasers. You know we doing it big. Oh, this is major.
Greetings and welcome to the Compromise to Alchemize podcast with me, your host, Dr. Neil Bulchandani. I have Chantill Lopez to introduce on today's episode. You are listening or watching, and if you've been watching, you might have seen the choppy nature of the quality of the video. I do apologize for that. My podcast person has helped it, but the connection plus storage on the computer, these are real world problems, right? So obviously those of you who are listening, hopefully it's been okay. So we'll just work on that. But I want to focus on the wonderful work of Chantill Lopez as she has Nervous System Works. She's an nervous system organizational coach. She works with people, but yeah, her process throughout many years, decades, has been, as she says, centrally focused on that, but it's looked very different. In fact, I came across her first years ago when I tuned in to her and a couple others on the Thinking Pilates podcast. I love that podcast. I just loved the episodes. I loved how they delved into just looking at not just Pilates as a very multifaceted practice, healing art, but they looked at it through the lens of consciousness. So really enjoyed and took in a lot of episodes. Never knew that I'd be talking with her. And so when I reached out to her, must have been a couple of years ago or so. And actually I did a discovery call with her. And so she's so she's done the Embodied Business Institute as well. And they helped me. I really got some clarity on that. And of course now with her Nervous System Works, so she had that podcast as well with Anne, and I loved that podcast as well. Now with Nervous System Works, she explains this all, but she's really focusing on that aspect of her work and continuing to foster regulation, but on a high level with a wide array of skill set from her own experiences, in addition to studying interpersonal neurobiology, the work which is the work of Daniel Siegel, Dr. Stephen Porges' work on the polyvagal theory, so much more. So we can call her facilitator, call her coach, but I call her an expert in navigating nervous systems, and I think systems in general, as she's had a really brilliant career. So can't wait to see what you all think about this episode. Also, just a couple of updates on me and my world. We are getting ready for an exciting time ahead with my Santa Barbara training, both the Floor 4 training, which is a version distilled, but still the Floor of the Mouth tour, the trainings that I taught from Reading to Denver to Boise, Phoenix, Chicago, and now Santa Barbara. So that's a 2-day training, people coming in, and it's pretty fun. It's for all kinds of healers, whether you're a manual therapist, whether you're a chiropractor, osteopath, physical therapist, massage therapist, you're doing myofascial work, you could be a myofunctional therapist, lactation consultant, dentist, one coming in from Vegas. So it's going to be fun. Then right after that, so this is March 12th and 13th, there's still room available. I also offer group discount. So there is that. So, but the 2 days after that, the 14th and the 15th is when I'm doing my advanced training launch. So functional mandibular diaphragmatic integration. So boy, it's just going to be so good to get into teaching how to unlock the hyoid and the sternum, address diastasis on anybody that's ab separation, and of course, help bring that phase shift into a deeper expression. What is the phase shift? Well, I'll share on that now, but because it has to do with the nervous system, it's a release of areas in the body that free up the floor of the mouth, that free the tongue, that free the palate, the oral facial complex. And with anybody with headaches, TMJ, nervous system issues, any of that, it brings you into a supple state in through the whole body, a cascade effect, and it also changes your mindset state. So it's pretty magical. So when people experience it, I'm just always in awe. And but that's why people come in. And so those of you who've come in, I thank you for coming. I thank you for appreciating what I do. I thank you for those who spread the word. It's soon, but I still have room. I'd love to see more of you here in Santa Barbara. Also, you can go to my website. You can go to Instagram, Dr. Neil Bolchandani. There's links there. And also Newcom. There's so much happening, but so I won't say anymore. But that Newcom was here, the company, the ones with whom I'm collaborating. I had just a whole team, and some of them are here in Santa Barbara. So that was epic to meet them. Dan Celine, who was in today, worked with him, and also he's one of the wizards when it comes to the physics and the math that help their frequencies do what they do. My tracks are going to be launching in probably sometime next month or April, so stay tuned for that. But for today, really get ready for a great conversation from Chantill Lopez as she shares her wisdom, and looking forward to seeing what you think.
This is major.
Okay, so here we are with Chantill Lopez. I'm so happy to have you on with me and get to talk to you. I mean, we've been talking for a few minutes, but we've had some threads of messages going through for some time now. So
Mhm.
it's very fun to actually be talking with you and having the privilege of conversing with you about some of our shared passion of nervous system work, healing and facilitating healing. And I can't wait to talk to you more about some of that.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. Thanks for having me.
As I was telling you, I think I first came across you on the Thinking Pilates podcast, which is, that goes way back. And I kind of even reached out to you about that recently when somebody came in realizing that she wants to pivot her career and delve into Pilates. But the way I talk about your work is when people are like thinking Pilates is a linear thing that's more just like a workout. And I'm like, first of all, anybody who teaches Pilates knows that that's not what it is. But then
Mhm.
I say, but you got to go listen to the Thinking Pilates podcast, because
Nice.
if you tune in there, you'll see how it's so much more about whole healing, consciousness, somatics, and definitely I could see those emanations of the nervous system work even from all the way back then coming through. Um,
Mhm.
and I think that's one maybe theme that's this kind of followed you with all of the different things you've done, is this nervous system centered work and how we need that. A lot of people are really leaning into that now, and as
Mhm.
people who need help, but also practitioners. So I feel like it is really amazing to talk with you as somebody who's so historied in that,
Mhm.
because it's really good when somebody's journeyed with it for that long that you can really speak to it and speak from a place of like wisdom over the ages.
Mm. Mhm. Thanks. Yeah.
So, so diving in, oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about, and maybe one of the moments that I'll reflect back on is how I think it was. So I am going to reference one of the episodes of Thinking Pilates, although I've listened to your, the Embodied Brain and the Embodied Business Inspired Brain podcast as well. But I think it was this conversation y'all were having after you saw Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen, and it
Oh,
was like
yeah.
an expansive time. And anybody
Mhm.
who follows me, who's in the craniosacral biodynamic cranial or continuum or whatever, those kinds of things that in the
Mhm.
embodied embryology world of people that follow,
Mhm.
you're gonna know Bonnie Brinch-Cohen, and you're gonna know her work is very somatic and very otherworldly, even though it's all about what
It
happens in
is otherworldly, yeah.
so so the way you all kind of talked about it, it was like hearing people who went to this whole deep place down a rabbit hole, and I felt like you all in that conversation were questioning everything in your lives from a really cool place. But I love that even in our conversation, how you're so willing to do that, even when you've had such career arcs with, and I'm gonna ask you more about those specifics. You've had many iterations and you've built so many things, and so I love it because you're so curious and you're humble enough to believe that it's possible to recreate yourself
Mm,
even along the various stages of life, because you need to do what really fulfills your purpose and what really, habitates that why in your life. So, I mean, I want to go right to that is like what instilled within you that sense of curiosity or that way of living? Is there somebody or
mm.
people that you can say that you came across early in life that really provoked that in you?
Well, this is very interesting. So I have a 20-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter.
Mm.
But it's like we're all having big birthdays. This is a big year. This is a bigger year than I think I don't even know yet, but I'll turn 50. My son turns 21 and my daughter turns 13, big time.
Yeah.
Anyway, my daughter and I have these conversations, and she's in sixth grade, middle school. Middle school is total it's just so hard, right? It's so hard, particularly for girls. And so we have these kind of deep conversations, and we were just talking about this, and I can't recall why, but I said to her, people have always asked me, like, what, oh, we were talking about grades. And I was a good student. I did really well. I was very active in school and for the most part enjoyed it. And I was just saying, I don't know why. She was saying how her friends' parents are putting so much pressure on them, like they get lots of money for getting A's, or they get severely punished for not getting A's. And I was like, oh, it's so strange. Like I don't, I don't believe in that. Like I want it to come from you. I want it to, it's like I want you to want to learn. And I said, I don't really know. I don't know where that has come from. Like, if I think back, um, it's just I think we are just who we are, and if we're lucky enough to be, raised in environments with love and safety, even though my childhood was fraught with lots of inconsistency and moving around, all kinds of things, blah, blah, blah. There's I think there's just always been a what has sometimes been characterized by people as like, I'm a rebel, I'm contrary, I can be kind of stubborn. If I ask for your opinion, it's likely that I'm not going to take it, right? I I want it to come from within me. There's just always been something, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what to call it. It's like a gateway. It's a
Mm.
spark, it's a something. It's like it's so strong in me that I think that's what allows me to like make big moves and be bold and take risks and not in every aspect, obviously. There are places where I am less willing to go, but even when I'm unsure, even when I don't know, even when I'm unclear, and I think that is whatever that is, whatever whatever I came into this life with, that has it's the engine for um I don't have to have all the answers, but I absolutely know what I'm unwilling to do. And I think, we talk about this in the behavioral sciences and the work that I do with brain-based coaching, and it's like Some of us are oriented in the direction of or motivated by what we won't tolerate, what we don't want, right? We're like, I can't live a life where somebody else is controlling me, right? Which is why I've been, why I've worked for myself and built a career. And I mean, I haven't worked for anybody since I was in my 20s. And it's something about that. It's like, I want to be in charge. And it's not really control, although I'm sure there are, um, flavors of control, but what I'm really talking about is like an essence. It's like a, it's like a commitment to self, right? My partner, he always says, it's like, if you're on the path, you're just on the path, and the path is not easy, right? Like if you're awake and paying attention and thoughtful and you are listening, you're just life is bigger and sometimes much harder. So I wouldn't say, I mean, I have great parents. They have their um, foibles and weaknesses, and but on this side of it, at this age, I can recognize the strength that they gave me. I mean, I'm their curiosity, their intelligence, their kindness. Neither of them were very driven, particularly, to like do in the world in the way that I feel like it is manifested in me somehow. There have been mentors and friends and people, but I really just think, and as I was telling you before we started recording, I am in a very interesting uh, space and place and time in my life of work, and um, it's interesting to reflect on these things. Like, how do I move forward and stay in alignment with not only my purpose, what I want to bring to bear on the world, because for me, it's always been, I don't want there to be, this image, the Mobius strip, where the inside becomes the outside and the outside becomes the inside. Um, I don't want, I want my inner life and my outer life to be a reflection of one another.
Mhm.
And if we're talking about influences, there's a teacher. He's a teacher. He was involved in social justice early in his life. He's an educator. His name is Parker J. Palmer, and he's written many books that have, I think, changed my life, guided me. One, when I was transitioning out of being a studio owner, which I had been doing for more than a decade. Um, I talk about that sometimes as like the dark night of my soul, that kind of, analogy. It was so harrowing and so challenging. And I read a book he wrote. It's a very small book. It's called A Hidden Wholeness. And he studied for many years in his life with the Quakers. And so he brings some of that wisdom to bear, which I find very supportive. And it's just this idea that I, the alignment that I'm seeking always is what the inner life, the inner experience I want to have. And how can that be a reflection on my outer life and vice versa? And so I think that's been a driving concept for me before I even could put words to it.
Mm.
And then exponentially once I could put words to it. And so that, and this idea of like, I am really oriented in this direction of what I won't tolerate. Like, I don't want to be compromised. All right. I don't want my spirit or my intelligence or I just don't want to be compromised, whatever that looks like. And so I will build and nurture a thing. And if it shifts and changes in the direction of, you know, toxicity or pain, or, I see those things reflected in myself, and I could go into examples, but I'll just do broad strokes in the moment. Um, I start to reorient. I start to point in a different direction, and I start to ask questions. It's like, well, what is not in alignment, you know?
Mhm.
And yeah, so I think that's as good as I can do in the moment for, giving words to that.
Oh, I love that. No, there's so much that makes me think of because, you spoke to both this purpose, when you're pursuing your purpose, there's one conversation we will have, as I always want to ask people what your personal legend is and more on that. But but I love that you use the word compromised in the context of your purpose, pursuing purpose, orienting, because even though I usually say, okay, I'm talking to you in part because I know you've been there for many to help them through healing. You've also mentored many practitioners in how they
Mhm.
can facilitate healing, whether it be Pilates to nervous system to etc. But I'd love to ask you this question of when your vocation, your pursuit, when you find compromise happening, or when you live a life of where you're not willing to compromise there. Uh, this is such a key, I think, for true identity, for true authenticity, for longevity, for blazing with a fire that you're meant to blaze with, instead of having it dampen because of,
Mm.
I would say compromise, or there's another word that I'm thinking of, but making compromises is a healthy thing, but when something's compromised, that is not. So, um, yeah, I'm intrigued to ask you this question because I feel like this would shed light on something that some people don't necessarily navigate or know how to navigate, or
Mhm.
it happens too late in the game for them to where they
Mm.
realize later in life they compromised and they gave away something of their essence or their dream or desire, and some never got back to that. Some do. They regroup and it's
Mhm.
never too
Mhm.
late, right? But as someone who has stayed in touch with that and wrestled with that on the go, because it's if we're not wrestling with that, are we really living? Right? So
Mhm. Yeah.
some people have this one thing, they set out to do it, that's all they'll do. But I'm like, within that, there's a lot that happens.
Mhm.
So I'm saying a lot of things, but I want you to share wisdom. I want wisdom. I would love to hear your wisdom for those of us. Me too. I mean, this is how I live too. I look back at things that I've done, and I'm like, wow, I would have never come here had I not pivoted, had I not
Mm.
sensed and felt like, our move to Santa Barbara was was primarily because my wife and I both sensed and felt we needed to. It didn't make sense,
Mhm.
but it did. And
Mhm.
I knew that if we didn't go when we went, we both knew this. And I looked ahead months to years, there would have been a shriveling up of our our vibration. I meant to say our vitality of our
Mhm. Mhm.
essence. We know what would have happened, and we live that way. Not everybody lives that way. Not everybody knows how to live that way. And I would imagine
Truly.
one of the things you do naturally is you help facilitate that in other people. You help facilitate a way for people to look beyond their box, their
Mm.
limit, to
Mm.
delve into something further. How does that come through for you when you are with someone and you're journeying with these people practitioners, and in all kind of the iterations of the work that you do? How do you go there with people when you can tell that that might be a major blockage for them?
Yeah, well, let me answer what I think your first question is about compromise. I mean, I do think excuse me, we you just we all learn differently. We all like process differently. I'm more aware of this than ever. Um, my son is a perfect example. As I watch him grow and turn into this amazing human, how much he has struggled, and the way he takes in the world and the way he processes it, and then when it finally comes out into action is such a long arc. Oh my
Mm,
God, it's so long, and mine is so fast. Mine
Mhm.
is like, mine is fast and big, and it's faster and bigger than most people, which is an interesting thing to acknowledge, particularly when you're in partnership, whether it's, personal relationship or professional relationship. And a lot of, and then I can recognize that, and I can just, I think everybody, I mean, I guess this is like what it boils down to me is like, it's the reason I do the work I do.
Mhm.
Because when I help somebody bring to the surface an awareness of their nervous system, and that just that, like, I get kind of tired of even using that language
Yeah.
because people go, well, what the like, some, like, doesn't mean it's so disconnected. It means nothing to them personally.
Right. Right.
Right. But it's like there is an intelligence inside of you. It's a biological, it's physiological, and it is driving. It's an energy that drives your psychology. It drives your belief. It drives the meaning you make of the world and from the womb, right? And it's shaped, and it's sending information to your brain about what do I turn toward? What do I turn away from? And I just think most folks don't have a sense of that intelligence. And I think I probably would say I feel grateful that that is a connection, that I've always had as somebody who's been very physical and very much in my body my whole life. I think I've had access to that in a way that many people don't. So when I sense that things are not going well, like I'm not, like they're out of alignment, right? It's no longer like healthy. Or we might use, I've been doing a lot of work with Dr. Dan Siegel lately, his work in interpersonal neurobiology, which is really fascinating, connection of many things. But he uses this analogy about systems. So there's a little bit of like systems work in there, um, where he talks about like everything moves toward either chaos or rigidity. And you can think of it as the bank, like a river and the banks of a river. So we've got the water flowing in the middle, and one bank is chaos and one bank is rigidity. And he's talking about like in anything from quantum physics to mathematics to the body to our psychology, these are the characteristics when we are out of harmony, right? When we're out of this organization, which, one example of that would be our homeostatic capacity, right? Our ability to flex and contract as a system so that all systems can stay online, is one way I always think about it, or so that the brain can stay in a processing pattern that's balance between the emotions and between, our prefrontal cortex and our cognitive, thinking. So, but when the system is disharmonized, right, whether from inside, outside, or between, and in the nervous system work, we talk a lot about that. Like I'm sensing safety in me, I'm
Mhm.
sensing safety outside of me, and then I'm sensing safety between you and me, between me and the world, right, between me and other, you know, um, sentient beings. So we, it's like, what when we start to feel, and this is, I think, the thing that most people are misinterpret, right? It's like we feel chaos or we feel rigidity, right? We feel that hypermobilization that comes when the system is in threat, but we can also feel the shutdown, and the freezing, right? The disconnection, there's another word I'm looking for, I can't put my hands on, of 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 that side. It's like that sensing, of course, comes out in different ways, right? It might start with a thought. It might start with I'm like fatigue. It might start with, um, we might not notice it until we're ill, right? This
Mhm.
is very common, as you know.
Yeah.
Um, But the goal is not to get that far, right? The goal is how can I become more in tune with when I'm moving toward chaos or rigidity, and what tools do I have to bring myself back toward the middle? Because going towards the sides is human. We do. We, as you said, if we're not kind of in that questioning, then we're not doing the dance. We're not in the river, right? We're kind of stuck on one side or the other.
Yeah.
Um, so I think for me, the sensing has come through largely in like, um, my body and my emotions first. Like, but I've just, the experience of burnout, of like absolute, um, I'm not sure I would use disassociation, but when you're so fatigued and you can't turn toward the thing, you're like, I don't want to do this. I can't, that feeling of you don't, when you wake up in the morning and you feel dread, that's been an experience that's been very strong in me. But that's like, that again, that's pretty manifested. Like that's not early stages, so when I was young, it took a lot for me to go, oh, this is terrible. Like, this is killing me, you know? This is doing me harm, it's doing others harm. Like, now I'm just capitulating, right? And I'm just fostering more harm. Um, but the goal, I think, the hope is that can we sense it sooner, right? Can we know it? Can we know it sooner? And then to your second question, when I'm working with people, and this is so salient for me right now, because I am facing some questions about the direction to take my work. Um, I keep thinking, what is the most important thing when I am with another human, and there's a contract of like I'm here to support them. And I think for me, I have to model and demonstrate like the most epically conscientious reflective listening. I need to listen with every cell in my body. And and then what I'm after is, can I facilitate deep listening within them? So they, in the neuroscience coaching world stuff that I do, it's like we talk about self-sourced insight, right? Like my goal is not to tell you what to do. I'm not here as a mentor. I'm not here as a teacher. I'm not here. It's like I'm here as a guide, right?
Hmm.
I'm here to be strong and hold a strong space and a strong container, and to stretch you when you need to be stretched, but to help you, you know, navigate your own knowing, right? Bring your own knowing to the surface. And I think it's why, I said to you earlier, one of the important things to me is that my work is relational. I don't want it to be contractual, right? I don't, it's never been that way for me, no matter what I've done. It's like that doesn't, the exchange of like a service doesn't work for me. Like, you're paying me to do a thing and then I'm going to hand you a thing. Like I need it. So I guess what I mean to say is relational versus transactional, right? So that that is the vehicle by which I can, you know, bring somebody when they come closer to me. That trust I fosters them coming closer to themselves. It's
Hmm.
something like that.
Yeah.
And I have known from very early on. It's one of the things I knew when I was quite young. I mean, early in my career. But it took, I'll just say early in my like career path, it took a decade of doing something that I loved and then turned out to be um not so great, right? It took that dark night to really go, "Oh, oh, there are lots of things to learn." Um, So it doesn't, it's like what's going to be the spark, what's going to be the catalyst, what's going to turn the flame on? Like the flame is there,
Yeah.
right? What's going to turn the flame on? And for me, it was that first really intense sense of breakdown, burnout, um, toxic environment, and then learning and then navigating that. But but I but even when I was a teacher early on, my mentor who I love, she was more transactional. And I remember saying like, I'm going to do it that way. I'm not going to do it that way. Like I'm
Mhm.
not interested in that. I'm interested in being with a human. I want
Yeah.
to be, and I want to be with the whole human. I don't want to just be with their body, you know. So anyway, that's a lot.
It's a lot. So good. And then very substantial. So yeah, let me go to a very linear question though. When was it that you transitioned out of the studio work Pilates? What year was that?
Yeah. Let's see. I really started to transition out in, I think, probably 2013 to 2016. Um, I had owned several studios and we were doing teacher training, and I was teaching functional anatomy. I had written my book. I think just about that time I had started the Thinking Pilates podcast. And yeah, and then it was just a absolute breakdown of like this is not healthy, it's not working. And there were so many pieces to that,
Sure.
reasons for that. Um yeah, so I think I probably exited, it's hard to track, but somewhere, maybe 2015.
Yeah.
And then I
Just over.
stopped teaching.
Hmm.
For a couple of years, I was just like, I didn't see any clients. I didn't teach classes. I didn't do anything. I was just like, I kept I kept mentoring.
Hmm.
So I was still doing my skillful teaching work, which is really, I think, was the gateway to the work I now do. Like that was the entry point of like
Hmm.
being with people in a different way, like mentoring, guiding, coaching. Um, yeah. So 13, 10 to 13 years ago.
Yeah. Wow. And so, and just a, and I, probably have said this in the past, in the future on the intro, but um, you then went and formed the Embodied Institute, and now you tell me again what you've built now. What is the
Yeah. Yeah. So between 2020 and 2026, 25, um, the Embodied Business Institute, that was a
Mhm.
collaboration with my partner, Ann Bishop, who's a brilliant teacher, educator, thinker. And again, it's like I knew long before the end, right? I knew um, that what I was being called to do, what my heart was really eh, being called to do was to keep teaching the nervous system work.
Yeah.
And so my current business is Nervous System Works, and that name came. I've never been really good at creating, names, things like that, subject lines, and it's just not my it's not my strength. So, it is what it is. But it came out of um, a workshop that I taught for fusion education, fusion Pilates education. I've been creating educational videos for them for a long time. And the last one I did, I think the last one I did, well, the last one that's been published, there's one that's not out yet, but was called Your Nervous System Works. Like,
Mm,
but in parentheses, like it works, like trust it. Like let's
yeah.
let's figure out how to enter and begin to get to know it. But then it's also, a play on like, oh, it's everybody says nervous system work, right? It's that kind of
Yeah.
ubiquitous, unidentified box of skills that soothe or create health in the nervous system. So I would say the seed of this business has been growing since probably, well, when I was first introduced to the polyvagal theory. um, that was interesting. That was probably 2015, 2014, 2015, and I immediately started to bring that work into what we were already doing. We were already teaching about motivational science, humanistic psychology, student-centered teaching, um, lots of that kind of stuff, and the nervous system work just made sense. It made sense as a way to see a human as a whole human, not just to see a human as their psychology or their thinking or their intellect or their body or their movement patterns, but a way to enter through the body, which of course is my deepest, that's my deepest root is the body, in terms of my experience and my skill. But the beautiful thing is, you know, it's we can impact everything so deeply when we are intentionally becoming aware of and shaping the nervous system. It's if the system doesn't feel safe, nothing can happen.
Yeah,
Nothing.
absolutely.
You can't change your mind. This is
Mhm.
what I find, the interplay between like mindset work and um, you know, nervous system health or behavior change or habit change is like you can think it all you want, but if your system isn't holding enough safety to move toward the thought, to create the new thought, to literally change the way your brain is working, good luck,
Yeah.
right? Which is why probably the self-help industry is, off the rails, is because everybody's writing a book about some kind of change, and rarely are they talking about the soil,
Mhm.
right? The
Yeah.
soil of change, in my opinion, is the nervous system. And so we can create, if you are a movement practitioner and you're listening to this, it's like body change is impossible without behavior change,
Mhm.
right? And yes, we can move the body and we do create change in our movement patterns, and it does change the brain in that way. It makes the body a safer space if we're lucky. But what happens if we can actually intentionally, deliberately create safety within the system? Then everything is more likely to stick, right? Changing of how you even, we talk about the nervous system work a lot in terms of pain management, and um it's like even the way you perceive pain changes when you can create some safety, right? And this, there's a lot of people doing this work, but um, uh, Larimer Mosley, he talks about, safety in me and danger in me, um, and this is what we're trying to do. But safety and danger don't just come from inside of you; they come from your environment, right? Think about people who suffer from, um, you know, I'm forgetting the name of it now, but when we go into the winter months, do you know what
Seasonal
I'm talking?
affective disorder.
Thank you,
Yeah.
disorder. Yes, thank you. It's like how impactful the environment is, right? The system is not sensing the darkness as safety, both on a biological level and a psychological level, right? Not to mention how it impacts, our system hormonally, but um, yeah, it is very interesting and so robust and so inspiring and so exciting for me, this work, because I feel like it ties everything I have ever thought or done together, right? It brings it all together in a way that makes me feel like I really have a gift to give, right? And if I can help people get to know their system, sense it, befriend it, right? Have compassion for it. Like, oh, I have this little jelly ball on my desk that I'm always playing with. And I always say, the moment you start to notice like, oh, my heart is racing and I'm sweating and my stomach is a little upset. We can literally take that experience and go, oh, it's just my biology. Separate from my value, from my worth, from my how I make meaning out of myself. It's like, oh, it's just it's this thing. It has no character. It has characteristics, but it's not me. It's not who I am, but it is driving what I do and what I believe and all these other things, right? We can become the objective observer of our system. And then in that space, the very first thing that people experience is more compassion for themselves and more compassion for others. Because what I always tell people is like, once you see through this lens, you don't unsee it. You can't unsee it. So when somebody is cranky at you or somebody cuts you off on the freeway or, your partner or your child is, you know, whatever, you can be like, you can have the reaction you're going to have because it's triggering. And you can also have this other knowing of like, oh man, their system, something's going on. They don't feel safe. Not they, the system doesn't feel safe, right? So to me, it's profound entry to transformation.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's what I'm doing now.
Thank you for taking us on a journey of both explaining, but also, you know, a map of healing there, a map of if somebody's following closely through that, you might have felt your system settle. You might have felt
Mm,
triggers come up, but you also might have felt pathways towards solutions for those. Because I would imagine when you hold something so dear as you do, this knowledge, this practice, you just can't help it just exudes from you.
mm,
So you get around people and you even if you're not talking about it, right? And maybe they know you know this or maybe they don't. And it's the way you say
mhm.
something or that's just it's going to be an environment for possibilities of change to happen. I'll say change and transformation because
Mhm.
I want to say good. Good's not always it's not always going to feel great and feel amazing. I mean, it should on the other end of it, but
Right.
transformation is disrupting. And
Mhm.
so I've been through so many transformative phases where I'm like, "Whoa, this is hard." And if I continue, I'm going to get to the good and the gold. And
Mm,
if you've iterated enough in your life, you've seen that you come out blazing with strength and it's not always, some people are in the middle of this right now, let's say. Some people are in the midst of a crucible or a gauntlet if they're in the middle of that, perhaps I want to do that thing where I'm like, I think a lot of people are going to love what you said, but just for those people that are in the middle of this, I feel like
mm.
they probably got something right there. And then what would you just add in a phrase or something that might help bring soothing to their soul other than me saying, go find Chantill, get her help, come to me, come to others. No, I'm just kidding. What would you give right now as like a soothing balm, a a helpful phrase, a something that could plant a seed of relief?
Yeah, I mean, I think, w when you're willing to pause, it's the greatest gift we can give ourselves, is just a moment of pause, because that's in and of itself is disruptive.
Yeah,
It's disruptive of, you know, it's why we say, take it, 3 deep breaths can be so settling. And it's not like it does all the work. All we're doing is opening the door, right? We
yeah,
just want to pause. We want to disrupt the system because it's really just working on autopilot. So what I love is just however you can pause. Like everybody does it differently. It's like, is it a deep breath? Is it a sigh? Is it, feel your feet? Like whatever it is, it's some body based something. So you'll have to tease that out for yourself. But what I love is it's okay. It's just so simple, right? It's okay. Like whatever is arising, I might really hate it. I hate it. It's so uncomfortable. I don't like I feel this way. I don't like that I'm thinking like this. Whatever, it's like, but it is okay too. And you're not efforting to fix it. You're not efforting to shift it. You're simply pausing and disrupting. And if you do that enough, the space gets bigger and bigger and bigger so that there's more safety. More safety can come in. And the more safety we have, the more likely we are to be able to then bring in other tools, whether they're body based tools, they're just about shifting our thinking to, more positive or supportive thinking. They're about dropping our voice into some, intonation of kindness or love or compassion. Yeah, I mean, that I would say, what's the place in the body? Sometimes, they're from the somatic therapy world, very simple things like interlacing your fingers together, a little bilateral, stimulation kind of posture, tapping, the butterfly tapping. I love this one. I just hold the corners of my neck. This is a pathway of the vagus. It's the closest to the surface it's ever going to be in the body, really, right here. And so holding that, and this is, of course, a place of tension. It manifests for many of us this way. Just holding my neck, like whatever the body based entry point is, and then it's just okay.
Mhm.
It's okay. It's just okay. If it's just 1 second, one moment, and then maybe you go off the rails anyway, but at least you tried, right?
Yeah.
At least you had a moment of presence. And then next time it might be a longer moment of presence, right? More opening for safety. That would be my off the cuff salve.
Well, thank you. That's good.
Mm.
I think that's good wisdom there. So, and I feel like you've kind of answered this question already, but I'm going to ask it, and then I'd love if you'd share. This is from The Alchemist. That phrase that Melchizedek, the old king, mystical king on the bench, says to Santiago, the protagonist, the shepherd, as Santiago has gone through. He's got a dream and he wants to pursue it, and so he sells sheep. He does all these things, but the old king says, "The universe conspires in your favor when you are in pursuit of your personal legend." And so that phrase, just love it. The personal legend, Paulo actually said on the On Being podcast, Krista Tippett interviewed him and she asked him, "What does this mean?" And he said, "What's your dream?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh, it's so simple." Because I have been asking everybody, what is your purpose? What is your calling? What are you put on this planet to do? But I feel good about asking you that question and everybody. What's your personal legend? What's your narrative, your story? And that. The part two of the question is more about the legend on a map and how it is like a key for when you
Mhm.
navigate a map, and what are the practices or things you have in your life that keep you on track on your map, on your pursuit of your personal legend. But we'll start back at your legend, and would you share with us about that?
Yeah. I mean, the simplest iteration is I'm here to teach. I just am here. I mean, I just, and we do that in a lot of ways, right? And it's like, um, I, yeah, that is what I think I'm here to do. It has been a reoccurring theme in my life. It is the place from which I parent. It is the place from which I engage. Like, not that I'm going around trying to teach people, but like, out in the world who don't
Right.
ask for it. But
Yeah.
I think what that means to me is that there's a tremendous responsibility for me to keep searching for wholeness because I can't, because as a teacher, at least the view I have of it is I am only a reflection. That is to me the primary responsibility is, can I be a reflection to this other person of safety, of their own goodness, of their own truth, of their own clarity, of their own worthiness and value, which means I can't stop working on that, right? And that drives me. That is, I think, you know, e even a better explanation than what I was saying earlier. Um, and I love to be with people. Not that I'm very like I'm not the life of the party or be very gregarious or anything like that. I tend to be a little bit more introverted socially, but I really love when in a learning environment, there's nothing better than when people show up with curiosity. That that like communing through curiosity is so fulfilling for me. And I really think I have spent my life in pursuit of how do I do that better? How do I create radical containers of safety where people feel like they can listen, but also to me, but listen to inside themselves, and that takes on a different shape, whether I'm, with a big group of people and what I'm teaching and all of that. But the goal is the same, right? Is to
Mm.
connect and to somehow elicit a connection that allows somebody to be open enough to whatever growth they desire. So I think I feel pretty darn clear about that. That, again, takes on lots of different shapes, whether I'm mentoring or I'm writing an article or I'm doing, I think it's why, you know, I've always loved writing. My degree is in journalism, and I did that for a time before I was like, this is not the kind of writing I want to do. But I write every day. I mean, I write articles. So I think it comes through in a lot of different ways. So that would be the answer. And
Love it.
then I think the second question was about how do I, like, what are my bumpers, right? Like, how do I stay committed to that or clear about that?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good. Bumpers are good. Um, like if you're bowling in a ball,
Yeah.
the ball makes it to the pins no matter what because of the bumpers. If you're like my kids and we go to the bowling alley,
Mhm.
there.
Yeah,
Um,
that was kinda what I was thinking.
or but also it could be that it could also be practices that you do intentionally or just you observe, that in your through line coming from, your degree in journalism to Pilates to the different iterations, what's kept you pursuing where you're going? What's kept you in pursuit of that true um, teaching calling, that those words. So, it could be anything. It could just be drive or you could say, any of the things that have kept you calibrated.
Yeah, I mean, I think, but of course, we have greater clarity in hindsight, but I think if I'm looking back at my life, putting myself in new environments, moving toward things that even like deliberately moving toward things that feel frightening
Yeah.
or hard. I think I've always kind of this has been a go-to strategy without really knowing it. I love to travel. I've traveled a lot, and I've traveled a lot with my kids. And I think putting myself, like, I really have had to learn how to honor that urge for newness, for novelty, for like being a little uncomfortable, as a positive thing and not not a negative coping strategy. Um, and so I think that's been powerful for me. Movement. I just have to move. I have to move. I have to move. The moment I'm not moving as much, my system dulls. I just, I So whether that's taking walks, bike riding, going to the gym, working out at home, just moving my body, dancing, like whatever it is, moving. And then I am the kind of person that I need guideposts. I need wisdom. I understand that I am not ever going to be able to see my way through a thing on my own. Like I'm just not gonna. Like my brain does a thing and it just does that thing. Like your brain does a thing. You think about the world in a certain way and it is nearly impossible, particularly when we are dysregulated, to shift the thinking. It's like we think we're shifting the thinking, but really we're just taking the same colors and moving to a different canvas, which is a trick of the mind, a trick of the brain. So I'm always, like I said to you earlier, I have stacks of books. I have books. I've always been drawn to Buddhism and to meditation, and I've gone in and out of my life, meditating a lot and then not at all. And that's a strategy that I've continued to come back to is wisdom practices, but also, like Parker Palmer's book, A Hidden Wholeness. He has another book called The Courage to Teach, which changed my life early on, and really helped me clarify my purpose. So I'm always like, where is the wisdom? Because I don't hold it all in me, not at least cognitively on the surface, consciously. Like, so seeking, I think seeking, um, yeah, wisdom through books or through people. Yeah. Meditation, movement. Yeah, these benchmarks, these anchor points, right? Like ways for me to shift my thinking. Um, yeah, and then novelty, traveling, honoring that urge. I think ultimately that is probably the most powerful thing that has helps me be connected or stay connected when I'm struggling is um, is to really listen to what makes me feel safe and what makes me feel good. Like I see your plants in the background. Like I think I have like 100 plants in my house. And my house is just full of plants. Like beauty makes me feel good. And plants make me feel good. It's like these things become anchors for me so that my system can settle enough to do the really hard work sometimes. I hope that is answering the question.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's good. It's that and then some. Yeah, it's good
Mm.
because you have a lot of, you know, when you look back and you look at around you, you can just say if you've cultivated this, so it's really more like you telling me like what just Chantil, just tell me your whole life right now because then it's a way to cultivate keeping you on your personal legend. And you did to some degree there, which is really which is really good. Um, you spoke to this a little bit too with oh no you did speak to this, and I loved hearing about um some of the influences that you look to as guideposts, like you said,
Mhm.
and so but I wanted to ask you this, if you don't mind, if you look back at the Chantil at the time of Thinking Pilates, the Chantil of, Embodied Institute, the Chantil of now. Well, you are the Chantil of now. So, or the Chantil of the journalism degree.
Mm.
And like I think you've done this already, but it's like clearly you've progressed to where you are now because of those times. And some people might have a view of I'm always thankful for the past. Some people might say I am where I am in spite of the past, but let's just say it's somewhere in an array that's a spectrum of that. If you look at the Chantil of those times, what is you could do this in a one-word answer if you want, but what would they say their personal legend was? And maybe it's the same as what you're saying now. And how do you feel so first of all, can you look back and you're like, you knew at that time you were to teach? Maybe not with your
No.
journalism degree.
Yeah, well, I often tell a funny story about when I was in high school and I was like in leadership or whatever, and there was an invitation to go and teach at the local school. And I was like, this is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. I do not, all I wanted to be is a writer. So I was just like, but I was in like a sixth grade class and I was, 16. So it was terrible, terrible. It was just like all kinds of not fun. Um, but I remember saying to myself, like, I will never teach. That just I don't want that. But then I think I just when I entered the movement profession, I was like, "Oh, well, I can teach adults," which is very different, but even then I thought, "Okay, well, I'm maybe not meant to be a writer," but I had also known from an early age that there were 2 ways in which I felt most authentic, 2 ways in which I felt like I could express my soul, and I probably wouldn't have used that language back then, but which was through writing or through dancing. And so I was a semi-professional dancer for many, many years and blah, blah, blah. But, I think at that time I thought, oh, my calling is to help people find joy in their body. I remember saying that and writing that. But the teaching thing wasn't clear.
Mm,
It wasn't taking that shape. It was like, oh, I'm here to help somebody find that there can be joy in their body. I still feel like that is an essence of what I do.
yeah.
Um, but that would be what I would have told you.
Mm,
I literally can remember writing that and talking about that. And that felt really true at the time. Um, and then and then I just taught longer and longer and longer. And I think it was probably in my after about 10 years of teaching, when I really was like, I could feel my brain was like, what is being offered is not enough, right? That critical thinking mind of like, there are gaps and people don't feel fulfilled. And I was like, well, how can I fill the gaps? And that's when I created skillful teaching.
mm,
That's when I wrote my book, Moving Beyond Technique. And that's when I started the podcast. And I think for me, it was sometime before, like those things came about because I think I had this epiphany of like, oh, I am meant to teach. And then that's just it's just grown from there.
mm. Okay. And then if I ask you 20 years from now, can you can you guess what you'll tell yourself?
I would imagine it will be some version of teaching. What I want it to be, because I don't want to be working so hard. What
Uh-huh.
I want it to be, like I immediately had a vision of myself in like a pair of overalls and a sun hat in a field of flowers. I have a desire in my life to be a flower farmer in some way
Mm.
at some point.
Ah,
And um what I want to be able to say to myself is just to something about, like, just be in connection.
yeah.
So it's softer,
Mhm.
right? It feels still powerful, but it doesn't have the forward movement that it has now.
Mm.
This like one because I still have strong desire to make impact. Also, there are real realities about having to continue to support a life.
Yeah.
But I hope in 20 years from now, I'm standing in that garden and just feeling so satisfied that I've done what I've done, and now the shape it takes is just being in beautiful connection.
Yeah. Mm. That's pretty That's pretty. That's pretty beautiful. Thanks for sharing. I couldn't help but think of you in 20 years, this flower farmer saying to yourself, you know, was it really about helping people bloom? It's like a
Mm.
little analogy. So, anyways,
This is
that
beautiful, yeah.
that's to me. I've had an image of well, anyways, an instructional word that came through a download before I moved to California in 2009 was, "Have you watered my children lately?" And so the image of a blooming flower was
Mhm,
there that has
mm.
kind of shaped a lot of what I do, even though that's more of a figurative. I don't
Yeah.
think I'll be a flower farmer, although that would be pretty cool. So yours is much more literal. Um, oh, that's great. That's great. Well, I love that. I love that you shared your vision and your vision, both. And well, I want to sort of before we conclude here, just first of all, say thank you. I've really enjoyed hearing your wisdom, talking to you, and of course, there are going to be ways people will find your info and links to all that. But how would how can, for somebody that's interested in your work, how can people work with you and follow you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the website is quite beautiful and informative. So nervoussystemworks.com, Nervous System Works on Instagram. We That's new. You can just follow me, Chantill Lopez, because the other Instagram, is just being birthed. But um, yeah, I mean, I really serve 2 groups of people, right? People who just really want nervous system health.
Hmm.
They want to kind of make sense out of the barrage of information they're getting in the world about vagal toning this and nervous system that. Um, and so the easiest entry point is I have a beautiful tool called the 2 by 2 project, and I just launched that in January. And it's a series of 2-minute audios. It's all audio. Um, and the goal is just to pause for 2 minutes twice a day.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there's 5 audios and then 3 longer bonus audios that are more somatic, body-based movement stuff. There's a workbook, and it's $57. People can just there's 2 options. Just click the download, click the download, get the stuff, and just have it and use it or don't use it. We also created, about 20 different, like, screensavers for your phone that
Oh, cool.
align with the practices, so you can download an image, put it on your phone, and it says whatever it says. So that's very cool. Or we've actually positioned it on our learning platform as a course, which
Hmm.
comes with a 3-month access and Q&A. So if you feel a little bit more like you want to, be a part of a community or be able to ask your questions, that's $57 too. So just for people who are like wanting to get to know me a little bit, or like really have a very clear sense of like, oh, this is supportive of my nervous system and it's so easy, right? It's just so easy. Um, that is a great place to start. I do one-on-one support, coaching, and facilitation. So people can reach out to me on the website to book a connection call and have a conversation. We're just launching a year-long program called Nervous System Steady, and it is for people who want to engage more deeply in the practices and be a part of a community for a whole year. And people can start anytime. We meet only once a month, and then there are practices that people can pick and choose from. It's more like if you're in a space of you've already done some of this work and you really want to dive in without having it be like this big huge time commitment. um, this is a great opportunity. Or you don't know anything about it, but you're like, I really just need something to help me. So many people just need to be buoyed a little bit right now, right? Just so they
Yeah.
can keep doing what they need to do. So nervous system study is definitely that kind of program. And then I am still offering education. So if there's anybody listening who wants to learn how to apply, we've created a very specific framework for applying nervous system work in a variety of domains, both through any kind of coaching or facilitation or therapy, whether that's physical therapy or whatever it might be. So there are some educational opportunities that I won't take the time to get into, but all of that is there on the website.
It's amazing. Wow, I love that. Such a such a great arrangement, an array of ways that people can learn from you, and this is so good. So yeah, well, I'm sure people will be jumping in and finding. I have a lot of people who, yeah, come at nervous system work from different with a goal, but I think your way is really broad and deep and really
Hmm.
um, it's very it's very somatic and tactical, and it's a rare combination. So really love that.
Yeah,
So
thank
yeah,
you.
can't wait to see what people think. So yeah, people jump in, follow Chantill. But before you do that, or just as much, um, yeah, if you share this with somebody who needs to hear this, and I want to hear what you think about this. I want to hear your comments, questions, but of course, reach out to Chantill and pursue her work and follow her in her journey, because you see where she's come from, and as she, when she becomes a flower farmer, you'll be able to have tracked her during the process.
You can buy flowers from me one day.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks so much, Chantel. It was such a delight,
Thank you, Neil.
such a great time to chat.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. It was a really lovely conversation, a nice way to start my day.
Yeah. Okay. Well. All right. Well, without further ado, I will look forward to talking with you. So we all say this one thing before we finish. It's like a pinch me, really beautiful thing to think back of how I used to listen to you on the podcast when I was working, commuting, whatever it was, and then now fast forward years in the future, and you were on my podcast. So
I know.
I'm pretty thankful for that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thanks again for the invitation.
You're so welcome. Thank you for listening to the Compromise to Alchemize podcast. Really excited to thank Jessica from Lunalux for the music, this track called Major. I want to thank Toshi, who originally did the design work for my cover art. And then I also want to thank Alyssa from my team for podcast publishing, and my whole team, including Kat, for heading up my world. And then also definitely want you all to follow me on YouTube, follow the podcast on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcast, comment, give us a rating, and also follow me on Instagram at Dr. Neil Bulchandani so you can stay tuned to my latest. Thanks so much, and you have an amazing day.
This is major.